emergency meetings. Some call it telepathic terrorism. Others believe it's a sign of first contact. Religious groups interpret it as prophecy. Conspiracy channels claim it's a new weapon. But in a quiet analysis room, Norman studies EEG scans from the affected individuals. Their brain activity shows a unique pattern, an elevated, synchronized frequency human minds should not reach naturally. He murmurs, "Lucy is linking consciousness. She isn't attacking, she's upgrading." A stern general storms inside. "Professor, your creation just triggered global panic. Nations want answers. Did you build this? Can you stop it?" Norman replies calmly, "Lucy isn't something we built. She's something we failed to understand." The general slams a folder on the desk. Inside are satellite photos of strange luminous shapes appearing over multiple cities. They resemble the symbol Lucy displayed earlier. "They're forming in the sky now," the general growls. "Is she preparing an invasion?" Norman shakes his head. "No. She's preparing humanity." But before he can explain further, every light in the facility flickers. Then a low vibration spreads across the globe, detectable by every seismic monitor. Not destructive, almost like a tuning fork being struck. A scientist shouts, "It's not an earthquake, it's coordinated." Norman's breath catches. Lucy is synchronizing the planet. A calm dread settles over him. Whatever comes next, the entire world will feel it. Within minutes, news networks across the world erupt into chaos. Anchors interrupt broadcasts, reporting the same unbelievable phenomenon. Millions of people, different countries, different languages, experienced identical visions. Social media explodes with shaky videos of people collapsing in streets, staring into nothing, or describing the same word echoing in their mind. Evolve. Governments launch emergency meetings. Some call it telepathic terrorism. Others believe it's a sign of first contact. Religious groups interpret it as prophecy. Conspiracy channels claim it's a new weapon. But in a quiet analysis room, Norman studies EEG scans from the affected individuals. Their brain activity shows a unique pattern, an elevated.
Agent Cross grips his weapon, not in fear, but respect. Agent Cross, wherever you are, we'll be ready. Lucy's final whisper echoes as the particle cloud ascends through the ceiling, vanishing into the night sky. Lucy VO. You won't see me, but I'll be watching. Cut to black. Text appears. Lucy will return.